Alright, the Digi Dunka Seki, Taplam, and then the assembly at Jagi, on those genet, didn't show get equal she did down the Che, Ganeshina, Gala, Dubam, Barango, when you troop to Vachimavare, Tisashan, Che Ganeshina, Gudan, Jen, Shenji, Dune to pour it, Tisaneza, Mahazuki, Dunga, and Yomo Batigena, Jike. Shen Jam Niche Jamba, Lasopo Gomba, Della Dene, and then was a member to Yadam, and the Com Yamlin Jabala Dene, and some gave you 60 Yane, Gone go to Page, and Trapata Tamjikimo top 2 warriors, or the show that equal she charge.
Good afternoon. So this morning, he spoke about how to bring about a state of lasting happiness and to eradicate all suffering comes about in dependence on training our mind. And also we looked at how all phenomena, they appear to us as if they exist by way of their own essence, but actually they do not exist in that way at all. They are dependent rather than independent, dependent on, for example, causes and conditions. And this includes our longed-for happiness and the suffering that we wish to be free of. Because happiness comes about in dependence on causes, we can train our mind in cultivating those causes. For example, meditating again and again on love and compassion, we'll strengthen our habituation, our familiarization to love and compassion. They'll more readily arise within us. Similarly, as suffering comes about in dependence on causes, those causes we can eradicate. And in this way, harmful minds that bring pain to us and others, we can weaken our familiarity to and eventually eradicate.
That is your seated in Ma. And Sidichi Pandi Gungishis, Chesa Medombe, Lamala, Nintaba, and the Sambia Soldabna, Chotumung. Just a
Coming to the second verse, the basis for all spiritual and temporal well-being in this and future lives is the Lama's teachings of the profound Dharma. Supplicate him sincerely from the bottom of your heart, and supreme and ordinary spiritual attainments will naturally arise.
Cedigi Pandi Gungi said, down the Cedele, now the Dunga says, Digi to Gore, Dewat Kugorva, Tisan Sechimania, Amanzulia, and Dunga Mevane, Luda Assembly, Dewat Kugor, Tisan Cedigi, and Pandi Gungi, she is Pambadang, and then Chike, Dewa, Yoyagi, Gutzawa, the Shi Gungi, she said, Yoyagi, Dan Yamlenche, Rimba de Carriese, or the Rimba de Masum Gorva.
The first line then of this verse explicitly states that how it's happiness that we desire, expressed here spiritual and temporal well-being. So all happiness, whether immediate or long-lasting, that is what we desire to experience both in this life as well as in future lives. None of us want any suffering, not even slight. And this comes about or arises in dependence on a particular basis or foundation.
And Tarbata Tamji can be Goban Toyagi, Gidina Devani Deva, Duvia Tarbat Tamji can be Goban Toyagi, Gudam Kunishi de Karelana, Chesa Modere said. That's City Kunji Pandi Kunji, Chesa Mo, said that Chesa Modere.
What we have in the first line translated as spiritual and temporal well-being can be translated as physical and mental happiness. So that is how Genla is describing it. So all of us, we desire physical and mental happiness in this life as well as in our future lives. And because it comes about independent on causes, In other words, it has a basis. We can cultivate those causes and achieve physical, ever-enhanced physical and mental happiness in this life, and certainly in our future lives. And happiness, both of the type that is temporary and transitory, as well as the ultimate, lasting, stable happiness of liberation. So as we spiritually develop, that attainment of lasting, stable happiness draws ever nearer. And this attainment of happiness comes about independent on the cultivation of the basis. And the basis is mentioned in the start of the second line, the profound Dharma. It's through cultivating the profound Dharma that we achieve both physical and mental happiness, both temporary and ultimate happiness.
Zeba zunju parchin jugi nyamne di chazan chue si or da chue si diso nyamne je go re so jidan di na le ya chue de la na ji ge rakba dan chamo samo ji da manzo gyamro sim ge che ya dan jam ni je de de le la de le na jan ju sim de ge de chawa de le dong ba ni do be she la de ge chawa an de ne san de ni ge chue de ge nyamne je rin ba shin de nyamne chen de din tama de samo 동방이 도배 셔라 공부할 때네 내가 저게 동아 띵이 대기 주야다 띵이 동아 바세 투야데 델레트는 용고래 제사제사 최사 모시데 디나데 최안 차라 사모라서 봐안 차사 디데 내가 최디 디 저게 대기 주야게 아니 시규디 디레서 시세는 규서 대기 주야 규 내시원 중사게 시디 안 동아세게 시안 규디 디서레서 오르다
Just like in the first line, the term spiritual and temporal well-being can also be translated as a physical and mental happiness, and whichever translation one goes for, it has the division of being the temporary happiness, what we've experienced, as well as the lasting, stable happiness, which is what we strive to achieve through our spiritual endeavors. Then similarly, in the second line, the term Dharma can be understood in many ways. So here we understand it as meaning virtuous endeavors. In particular, we can taking as an illustration, reflecting on the sufferings of samsara so as to develop the determination to transcend samsara, to arise from the suffering realms of samsara. It would include thinking, reflecting on ethical restraint, developing an ethical outlook. It would include reflecting on love and compassion, as well as the wisdom realizing emptiness. So all these virtuous endeavors are included in the Dharma. And amongst these virtuous endeavors, there are degrees of profundity, so coarser and subtler. So the term we have of profound Dharma refers to the subtlest presentation, the most profound, which is in relation to reality, how to cultivate the wisdom realizing reality or the wisdom realizing emptiness. And preceding this, there are coarser, less profound realizations required, such as the generation of love and compassion, and a subtler, more profound realization of that would be that of bodhicitta. But again, the subtlest will be the wisdom realizing emptiness. And all of these, as we cultivate them, the attainment of the state of lasting happiness approaches ever more. Our experience of happiness becomes more profound and ever longer lasting, less interrupted by suffering. And this is as we journey towards the attainment of the final goal, liberation and enlightenment. And this happiness that we long for, looking at the first line, whether we express it as spiritual and temporal well-being or physical and mental happiness, this all comes about in dependence on causes, a basis or foundation. The happiness we long for has a basis. In other words, comes about in dependence on specific causes. The suffering we long to be rid of, this too is attained through the cultivation of specific causes. And those causes for attainment of happiness and the freedom from suffering are contained within that term Dharma, these virtuous endeavors.
Denegi chue samodi da nga zu chue de da denegi chue samodi nga zu ki tingi dunga seya da digi tu yu gyudi dires deletin yungores jesa di dombi ke lama la sen denegi domba sen nga zu le pa di dire di nyamne deneten je gore se denegi chue sammo nga zu denken domba la ma labje ja ba se ma tuen ba se denegi dombi ke lama de la ani ning ta ba ne so wa ta go re so ning The
profound Dharma then, it contains all the causes that we need to cultivate so as to achieve happiness, both temporary and lasting and stable, as well as the causes that we need to cultivate so as to purify or weaken the causes we've already accumulated that will lead to suffering, as well as to prevent the accumulation of further causes. All of this is contained within the profound Dharma. That is the basis or the foundation for the attainment of lasting happiness. And to understand the profound Dharma, both in terms of a theoretical understanding, as well as the practical application of the Dharma, so that it arises within one as experience, comes about independence on our Lama or our spiritual teachers' guidance or teachings. So therefore, recognizing this, now in the third line, we supplicate him sincerely from the bottom of our heart.
chi ngöbe thone dunga shung gore china digi se de nang sem gyo thone digi dan chi ngöbe thone digi chi tu gorwa deni za da ngan zu ji so na le ya ji ke lap dal ro de lob jong je de gari ti gore se ne chi ngöbe thone kanga yong de kanga se thang ka ta se thang de lap gore ane chi ngöbe thone digi tu ta di ngan zu sung gorwa chesa deni za ngan zu benjo ya wo tu gore benjo ya wo jena de so so ge kanga se ge sa da ane chöden ya wo che wo di jena ane ji ge dunga na ze nyong tu gore sa da deni ge ane lü le ya na ze de deni yo ba na ane men ju du su che gore sa da du jena ngan zu chi ngöbe thone dunga yo ya de dunga se ya da digi lü ya digi tu ta di ngan zu ge lap che ji gore 다 낭 셈기 토네 셈 안에 저기 셈 데니시는 녀모바레 콩로게는 녀모바레 되샤게는 녀모바레 안직나자다 차도다 디묵세데 녀모바레 디수경아서 dun가용을 디마 메바스요고레 디 메바스요단 간에 수요고레스네 안직이 잠바다 제와다 니제고미야다 동방이 되베시로 곰니 메바스요고레세야디 송야디 만주기 지속이 롭종 날려디 롭종데 지고 말와 진짜 지고 말 다디 수지고르스네 다디디 만주기 낭sem규톤에 강아 세타다 sem규톤의 규와는 곰냠레제도 sem규톤의 곰냠룹제다게 라 지고파 롭종데 수팅고르스네 나가주기 가서 취규톤에 라메기 만줄이야 디 롭된데 지고래 제로
As I mentioned this morning, all the happiness that we desire, as well as the suffering we long to be rid of, comes from two sources, either the outer material world or the inner mental world. Our education, our ordinary worldly education, as well as society, directs us primarily at focusing on the outer material world as a source of both happiness and to overcome problems and difficulties. For example, a lot is known about how to live a healthy life, as well as how to create material comfort. So this is something that you're all well educated in. But this only partially addresses our needs and doesn't get down to our primary needs, which is to take control of our mind, to take care and control of our mind. So in order to understand our inner process, we need to come to know our own mind, come to recognize that afflictions such as anger, attachment, jealousy, and pride These cause us pain, and their expression bring pain and suffering to others too. And moreover, the cultivation of contrary minds such as love and compassion and ethics, these serve to weaken, and wisdom itself serves to eradicate these afflicted minds, as well as are causes for happiness. And this is something that is not taught in general worldly education, in particular at the profound level that leads to complete and lasting transformation. That is only found in the Buddha Dharma. And to come to understand that, both intellectually, but certainly experientially, we need to rely on a spiritual mentor, on a Lama, someone who, based on their knowledge and experience, can guide us in our spiritual journey.
Nyamlin Jegi Rimbati, Lami Manga, Dumkore, Lapsha Gores, just a Lama Latinanzu, the Anangazo, Tizen, Nye, Tizen, Nye, Deni, the Nye, the Donade, some Daje, Duchinangazo, Congo, Denenza, Mother Dunga said, and Tiki to get to go, Reservada, Denenza, the Lama Delia. Ning Samba Tabi, so tap city, just a Lama Delia, swim sim dingy rang, and Jigger that Dunga said that Digi two goods and because some not come out of Lamsa, Lamalia, Dushine, so tabulis, so taps, sauce, and they are sure. Sure, tap level on to many that several mass matabas, which is a Lama's Garshu or a senate, Sisada, me you do not say it and dig you to be a same Yamlin Chedi, Ganaka, teacher, Lama Pangazulia, Suro Chesaji, Lamalia, Shuva, Shusha. Just a Lamiga, Lamayashi, Lamikarongi, that Denigi, Yamlin Che, Rimba, Masona Kivits, our subunding under Kulia, and Denigi, Yamlin Che, Rimba di Pa, Ki Tuyagi, Lamakarongi Duschine, Narochi, Saji, Yashu, Shugo, Resor, in Samba Tape, so Tapsi, Ya, Surge, Tap said it, Denigi, Yamlin Che, Sabun, Kivits, our Rang Kula, Ki Tuyagi, Lamikatus, Jeroche, Saja, Shugo, Regere.
Longing for happiness and to be freed of suffering, we need to come to understand the path to attain such a state, and not only understand that intellectually, but how to develop that mental path within us. To do so, one has to receive teachings, listen to teachings from our spiritual mentor, and then meditate on those teachings, habituate ourselves, familiarize ourselves to them, so they become integral to our way of thinking. So therefore, recognizing that, understanding that, the third line says, supplicate him sincerely from the bottom of your heart. So what are these supplications or requests that we are making with sincerity to our spiritual teacher? It's requesting that he guides us in how to attain freedom from suffering, freedom from pain. So the request is, please teach us, please guide us, so that we can learn how to plant those seeds of virtue on our continuum. And not only plant those seeds, but nourish them. Teach us and train us how to meditate on those teachings. Encourage us and be our living example of a person who has lived the path. So these are the requests that we make sincerely from the bottom of your heart, requesting to be guided so that we can gain freedom from pain, freedom from misery.
Ning Samba Tape, Ning Nia so Tapore, Mother Kazam 6 members, she and it seemed Dini Shalamedi, Kazam 6 other Tingalia, the Laurachesna, Dijara Mandulia, Jake Pando Yotumareje, just same Dini that Lamigiti, Malia Nauroche, same Dini Shudu, so same Dini Jayaki Dubaki Gores, just an Diki Gores, Mother. Same Dini, Jandu Sharaman, I join a Digi, Lauraja, Sergeant Din Lovne, same Dinglia, Jandu Sharaman, Nico Shena, called Pando Shara to Maraje, just an Ning, same Dini, so Jandu Dubaki and Pad, so Tapores. And there, Samba Taban is Lamsan Sura, just that the Shume and Lojema Siwachiya Shuo, Anjik, Dawahashi Jele Shuin, Lojema Shuin, Lunisum Jelia, and so at been some Sambatam Dusche Chevena, and Dipara de la Shua and Lojema Ya Shu so at the Bisidi, Dimata Paradela, so at Yamara Parade, and then degree she said the sweet love to her Marcasan, Manzuki, she came Mangu or Cesar, so Amata Paradelia, Manzanian as a Chuyata, so near that Shonkanga Tebene, and Yamachi to Marchesa. That tongue was with the dinner summer Lamsa, and then ya saw a double, yes. Lamsa saw a dabna, and Lamsama mix in it now, then Lamsang and Zuki, Yamnichi, a cock braggy, yes, or.
The third line says that the supplication should be done sincerely from the bottom of your heart. And this is important. When making expressions or requests, these can be done in the same way as one will just read a prayer. This has really very little benefit. These need to be done based on reflection, so that they can arise within oneself with sincerity, understanding that as long as we remain trapped in the realms of samsara, we will continue to receive pain. So will all other beings. Give rise in this way to a sincere yearning to be freed of misery and attain the state of lasting happiness, to fulfill our potential. This then leads to our requests being expressed with sincerity in a heartfelt manner. And this is important, because such a request will have a very different outcome. That such a request creates a cause that will have a very different outcome from a mere expression of words. And within this expression of sincerely, there is a second meaning of immediately, without any delay. The request should, being a sincere request, it would be, guide me now, train me now. I'm opening myself to your guidance, to your training now. Not next week, next month, or next year, when my physical condition may be better, or the busyness of my life may be better than it is now. Rather, a sincere request is made for help right now, for guidance right now, because there is really no certainty that our physical condition or the busyness of one's life will improve or not. So therefore, this line of sincerity, which includes the meaning of immediacy, is of great importance. And this comes about in dependence on reflection, and then one's requests are truly heartfelt.
Lojema Joa Tao Hachel Chiso Tabilan, Daddy Goa Primary, then they are Mares Chisan, Lamsa, and the Chawos of Ataku, Chitire, and denying that the Nekurozine, that during some Chigma, Chictenegi Pat, Chabra, Udicablia, Ton, the Colonel Lamsa, or that during some chicken sebi touch some nature, you had the Bemasigi, Wachadura, and the other Dalo, that Dalo, the Ensemble Lojema, Lojema, they are doing somebody in that. Then Lojema de Ragi Kok Ragi Mena, then the Shitoya Marwa. Chisan Yons, the Nicolamsa, Samba Tachu, Lamsa to Chin, Chicket some Dosio Dilla, and the Samba Tapane, and the Chicket, so Tabana, Samba Tapane, so Tachu, do see you did no dinner, she could raise over that. Can also did Javana Bear already.
All of you saw this meditation retreat advertised, and a yearning arose within you to hear the teachings of the Buddha and to meditate on them, integrate them within oneself. And this really is a wonderful outcome of causes that you each created in the past. Those ripened in a yearning to put aside other activities and many other options that you each have in your life, to come here and receive these teachings and to meditate on them, to keep them in mind both in and out of session. And I encourage you to firstly recognize that this has come about in dependence on the causes that each of you created, and rejoice in that. And secondly, commit to using this longed-for opportunity well. And do so with the understanding that opportunities like this are rare, and there's no certainty that for any of us such an opportunity will come again. Moreover, there are many who would have seen the same email and had the wish to come, but were unable to, for whatever reason. The causes for them were not accumulated. And they may be now doing something else, longing to be here, but they do not have that opportunity. They had not created all the causes. You have. So I encourage you to use this opportunity well, and as you experience benefit from your time here, receiving and reflecting on these teachings, aspire to come again, to receive teachings again. But don't delay your endeavors in spiritual training until the next retreat after this one. Utilize this time right now well, knowing that it will end and may not come again. And the period between now and the next, each day may be one's last, so use well. Just like you created the causes to come here, continue to create causes for further such opportunities.
ane de ning tabane ane ning ne ane samba tabane so tamna ane garyung gurese da dene garyung gurese cho tumong ngorup ngangi jungs 제다다 초다 초게 ngorup tumong ngorup 세dige 거 ngangi 중구레스 배주 지하고 거 중용 거기 용구레세데 용구레스 초다 tumong ngorup ngangi 용구레스 초게 ngorup tumong ngorup ngangi 용구레스 월
Having recognized then that the profound Dharma is the source of all happiness, and that to access the profound Dharma and give rise to it within oneself depends on our Lama, we make these requests with sincerity, and doing so, and him responding to these requests. The result is expressed in the fourth line. Supreme and ordinary spiritual attainments will naturally arise.
디나다 델리아 초게 ngorup tumong ngorup세 초게 ngorup세네 당한 주게 라마야 소와 답지 닝타번에 소와 답요디 라미기 아니 두수수수 냠네 디제고레 삼라디 땅고레 두신 냠네 제고레 공부 셈리아 두수 공부 그래서는 마 깔롭나인데 디나와나 신시용어서 냠네 제베이나 아니 초게 ngorup세도 초게 ngorup세네 제부 디 냠네 제부 가르는 것은 초세디 탈바다 탐지킨 비고 바디 톱투고레 해지레 초게 ngorup 다 투몽 오르블라도 투몽 알라데 나 체델이야 안 리데와 셈기와 안 델레테네 안 제와 치마이네 안지电상보 토야다电델이야 야지 리데와다 셈기와 데테고티기 대용구리 해서 왔다 투몽 초다 투몽 오르 난게 중세데 체디기 대기다 리다 셈기 대하와 기와 치매기 류 된 야고토야 될때네 안에 류다 셈기 되와 대화에 되기 주야 되게 투몽이 어렵서 되기 용그레스 안 초게 어렵라도 초게 제보 탈도 바데 탈바다 탐지기 먹고 바디기 줍투 그래서 그래.
Having made heartfelt requests with sincerity, a Lama responds and teaches us not only imparting words, but how to cultivate them within oneself. And then by us as students, applying that training precisely as we are guided to, supreme attainments are achieved. So the result of sincere requests and the response to those sincere requests being fully applied to ourselves, in other words, receiving the teachings and meditating as guided, leads to the achievement of supreme attainments, namely liberation and enlightenment. Liberation from all suffering, and enlightenment becoming a being of greatest benefit. As well as ordinary attainments, these will also come about. So through following the guidance and advice, applying it to one's mind, one will achieve ordinary attainments. In other words, in this life, our physical and mental suffering will be greatly reduced, and will create the causes that we can have, that we can face death with confidence, knowing that our next life we will again achieve a good rebirth, and not only a good rebirth, but one marked with excellent conditions to enable our spiritual development. So the ordinary attainments relate to physical mental happiness in this life and ensuring good rebirth for our continued spiritual development. And the supreme attainment refers to liberation and enlightenment itself.
계획이 된다래 제부디 계획다 기고 선빙한테 직 베지 제오마 호랑 한기 기용을 호 기용을 해셔래 장한기 기용을 해서 근데 슈우직 나래 양아 저기 인마 추줄루셔반에 추디 규디 가서네 슈 롬버스에 규르와 추줄루셔반에 줄루션 다가랑 고추 롬버 차루라 난게 롬버 차루마 동아서 추디 루제 슈구디 롬버 차에게 된다래 야게 베지 제고를 해서 제고요 말아 줄루셔반에 슈구디 슈간의 줄루시는 슈구디 롬바 차 난게 고 라싱이 차로고 롬바 차 난게 준 거래서 디나신데 저기 라멜리아 소왔다 라메기 도수 삼당고래 되네 곰 겨고래서 마 손셔버 다하랑 제바 있나 안데 저기 디테부디게 초단 투몽고 초기 제보다 투몽의 제보디게 차상 그런 나도 라싱 거 기용을 해서 그럴까.
The verse ends with the two words, will naturally arise. So this expression we can understand, for example, if one plants a seed in rich soil, and there are the other required conditions such as moisture and warmth, for sure it will grow. In fact, one could almost not stop that seed from sprouting. Similarly, if there's a piece of paper and one pours water on it, that piece of paper is going to get wet and one will not be able to write on that piece of paper. Similarly, we make heartfelt, sincere requests to our Lama, he will respond. And not only will he respond, but due to our request being sincere and the resulting openness to that advice, we will apply ourselves to the advice we are given and train perfectly, repeatedly, over a sustained period, precisely in accordance with his advice. And in that way, we can be certain that the results will naturally arise. They will be unstoppable. Similar to the verse we looked at this morning, in both of them we see dependency being addressed, that desired and undesired results come about in dependence on causes. So therefore, in dependence on accumulating virtuous causes, we can be certain that desired results will follow. So for example, in acquiring the specific causes, we will attain good rebirths in our future lives. And not just good rebirths, but rebirths marked with all the excellent conditions required to continue our spiritual development.
Sedigi digiri, Gewa Chimai digiri, and Sedela digikore, Gewa Chimala digikore, Dimaja and Tarbada Tamji Kimbu Gopasiati, Dingi de Wading Anzul Gores, Digi di Druya de Chasan, Garalt in the Yungorasine, Chewing Yamlin Jabalet in the Yunguries, Sim, Chewing Yamlis, Semited the Yamlin Jabalet in the Yunguries, Di Semgiton and Yamlin Jabadi, Lama Latine, Lamigis and Dambo Yamlin Chetadi Tubig Dundala some danger, and then Yamlin Chehore, the is a Lama so up, the Lama so at the Lamis in the Tur, Tuji Dunda, Yana Yano, some Gongores, Di Gobaina, and Sedigi Digida, and it's a Giachima Hada Mi Gobong, and Tarbatamji Kimbo Gomasiati, Gorangi Junguries or Donadire, a Ducian and Yamlin Chehores as Sumor.
Summarize this verse. All the happiness that we long for in this life, as well as in our future lives, as well as the ultimate happiness, the lasting, stable happiness of liberation, this will come about in dependence on training in the Buddha Dharma. And training means training the mind. Practice means training the mind. To be able to train the mind comes about in dependence on receiving teachings. In order to receive teachings from our Lama, we need to supplicate or request, and in particular with sincerity. Because if the requests are made with sincerity, our mind is open and receptive. Those same words will penetrate deeply within us, and in dependence on that, we'll have a more sustained motivation to apply those teachings, to reflect on them, and to live in accordance with them. Therefore, in dependence on requesting with sincerity to receive teachings and thereby train in them, the results that we long for of lasting, stable happiness will naturally arise.
Lu nga yisum sachi urade chesa nga yugone ane chige shenlia zun shebada shenlia tsipu shebada shenlia kohor tawa ane jebaina di nga digi denigi tene ane digi rashaniga la dunga kanga yungore nga zu nga gi tsipsup ta ane zun shebada shen kohor taya da di nga de la tene nga zu Ranglia Ganga, Shalia Ganga, Rajinika, Ganga Yadi, Nagi di Nadi. Then di Doksho di Nadi Gibet, Gichi Jangbushia, Shalia Penbigi, and the Gichi Jambushia, and the Yahush Jangbushia, Tijabena, Digi Ranglia Pingor, Shalia, Rajinika, Payachagore. Tizadi Rangagi going on the deeper Katasagors in it, then a Shalia Tsuchia. And you share Kuhota Gishia, Miparale, Tushinja, Tama said, Tambashia, Andusine, and Shevaina, Dison Nadi, Desolatine, and the deeper Yungorechesa, Manzoliak, Rashinika, Laganga, Disure, and Disuchio Mares. That the Dokshola Carchiores, then on the Geshe, the Geshigani Patch, Bijutadi, Geshe de Gepa, Milia, Amjoko de Bet, Sing Yambukoya, Yawotan, and the Jambushia, and the Jig, and me, Matumba in the Tumbus Teada, and the Jig, and Jambushia de Chores, DJ Vena, Rashinigal, Pingores, the Pingores, Nag, Gavare, or the
training in the Dharma leads to the accumulation of virtue, and this is done through it is done either physically, verbally, and certainly mentally. So, for example, if you think of speech that brings harm to both oneself and others is, for example, to lie or deceive others, or to talk harshly to or about others. This brings harm to both ourselves and others. So that would, of course, be included in non-virtuous or unwholesome speech. The opposite to that is communicating honestly, straightforwardly. And that would be included in wholesome or virtuous speech. So from these two types, it's clear which brings benefit and which brings harm to both ourselves and others. If we develop our way of thinking so that naturally we speak in a way that is honest, and truthful and gentle, we will develop easily a closeness towards others. And they will have a trusting relationship towards us, seeing us as someone who is reliable and honest, and they will feel a sense of harmony, of closeness with us. So by us transforming our mind, transforming our speech, and thereby transforming our speech, not only is our mind at ease, but we have a beneficial impact on others too.
Garasa Hosen, Ganzo Kewad, the she Nagone Savan, and Dipa and Nagone Dipa Savar, Kewa and Nagone Kehotu Nagone. Then Rajanika Lakanga, Yoadi, Nagone Chikungore. That's what Chik Nikawan was in a Luyukone Ligore. Nanzu Luyukone, Shanlia, Socho Bata, Shangi, Jalakuma, Kuyala Soban, Shanle, Neighbor, and Civic, Java Luyukon, Civic, Java Chepaina, Digi, Rala, and Nugore, Shala Nuga, Rajanika, Dungatigore. That Deepa, that the Dichigyo Maresor, that images the Dosho Karchores and Luyukone, Shala, Minerva, Luyukone, Shanlia, Pembi Java, Gantu to Chituyada, Shan Jabaina, and Jike Luyukone, Shan Yukuma Mogoa, and Shanla Tawa Micheba, and Shan Sojo Micheba, and Jay, and the Dosho de la, Ranlia, Shanlia, Pembi Java Kazi, Tutu Jubaina, and Jubaina. And the Luigi Cavares, Chesan, Shen Luyukone, Shanle, Pempacati to the Jubaina, Digi Shanle, Pink or Rala Pinger, Rashinigala, Digi to Borders, Chesan Dinesa, Luyukone, on the Kewa to Tachita, that Dunga to Tani, Chesan Luyukone, Dungadi, Shanle Tawada, Nebada, and Kumako Soba, Disuyunga, Tisa, Deepa Mel Bangore, Tichiko Mares, Chesan Luyukone, the Shanle Rashinigala, Pembe Java, Jawores, Dina, Net Gavares or.
We need to train our mind to ensure that our verbal expressions, our verbal communication, at the very least doesn't bring harm to others and ideally brings benefit. So too with our physical behavior. Train our mind to ensure that through our physical behavior we do not bring harm to others. We don't take what is theirs or what they value. We don't physically bring any harm to others. And where we do so, not only does it bring harm to them, it harms us as well. So we need to cultivate the opposing way, the opposite way of thinking. Thereby that will be expressed through our physical behavior. Not wanting harm to come to others. We will not physically harm them. We will not physically take what they value, what they consider their own. And thereby, through training our mind and transforming our behavior, benefit comes to both ourselves and others.
On that dinigi, that Luyukone, and Bening Dipa, Dangargone, Dipa Yonadikita, and Luyukone, and the Pemba Kawa, Dangargone, Kawa Yonadiki, so Carole Rally wasn't similarly gore. Chezanganzo, Semutone, Shanlia, Chikunji, Dan Shalia, never chick, some lot you Kulonchi Yubana, Nani, Jalia, Tifu Chada, and Chikunju Chiada, and the Chikungore. Shangi Tuan Jala Kuma Kuyada, Shanlia Tawachi, Depokuno, Samlo Chubaina, and Dito Luyukone, Shangi Jala Kuma Kuada, Shanla Tawacha Yungore. She's on Samlo Nale, Dimevache, and Dimena, and Lunga Gone, the Yungumare. She's on that same Yukone, Shanlia, Penas and be a Samlo Chida, Shanlia, never in the Yahoya Mare, Shanla Dunga and the Ganga and the Yahoya Mare, and be a Samlo Chubaina. And the Shangi, Jalakumaku, Shanle Tawachi Mare, and Shanlia, and the Pembe, some of you, some of the Didugi, Tangago, Kishebene, Yahoshia, Panimania, Shia, and Luyukone, Jawachebena, Gang to the Robachi to Yada, Dini already, non similar to the Yungor. Jizan, Dini, same Gitone, that Luna Gidi Yoda, non similar Gitone Yungor. Jizan, that similar to similar, and then another person, Shella Nubi Jawasiada, Tsewe Sampasas, our Gini, Sampe, some of the diet, and the doctor, the Karsam Dawson, Tangi, Shella, Pembe Jawa, Gang to the Chigia, Sampe Samla, and the Jango Chigi, Shanny Chicken, Gotang, and Shang is like Shanlia, Tawaja, Ganga Jigme, just Shanlia, Pembe Jawa, Gang to the Chigi, Sampe, some of the Tambaina, some of the Yobaina. Luna Yiki Chubatia, Yakuchum Corregere.
whether our physical behavior, physical activity or our verbal communication is harmful or beneficial, comes about in dependence on our way of thinking, in dependence on the motivation, on our mind. So therefore, mind is primary. It is absolutely crucial. If we value others, if we value sentient beings as being dear and hold them close in our heart, we will not harm them. It would be inconceivable that we would bring harm to others through our physical behavior or our way of speaking. And we would not want harm to come to them by others. We would not take joy in pain being inflicted on others. But that way, that comes about in dependence on training our mind. Hence, the meaning of Buddhist practice, the purpose of Buddhism itself, is to transform our way of thinking. So by developing the determination that I won't bring harm to others through my behavior, my physical behavior, or my way of communicating, we will close the door to not only physically harming others, but to deceiving others or taking advantage of others. And in order for such a mental transformation to come about, as we've seen in this verse, a mere expression of words or thought will not lead to transformation. This needs to be done with sincerity. When we generate a sincere determination, I will not bring harm to others. I will not add to their burden of pain and suffering. Rather, I'll be a source of joy and comfort to others. This way, generating a mind of restraint, where we have a determination that under no circumstances will we harm others, our speech and our behavior will be gentle, kind, and tender.
Deso that lunga gichobadi nganzu semgi tende yunguyo badi nganzu ne nyamnyo thone sewa hago tuya chi bene sosogi peni shendela mahawe samba chikyo bene lamsa anji midil pha tadu gable chik dongbe numgyu die des khahachi de nganzu dong numgyu de phashe thongyo de phashe de maki basyo ya chi maki ya so ya chi da de geji ngago ne geshi de gable ne siktige be chik de zuuro chi da 직시해도 안에 파쇼 미고요도네 마기 봤어요. 지산 되는 자 소수의 나고 돈에 동계 넘겨다 류기 넘겨 자와디게 낭semle 되는 연구요 받에 세부 가서 지산 디찰라시네 셈나 딩이 꾸마지 캐로 와서 몇 삼도 줘봐네 페니찰라라고 라베기 주니 캐로로 지산 다 셈도네 셈상과 거기 가위 삼바치 미디 빼고래서 전에 셈제 dunro이나다 밀리나자 파졸 제외 삼바치 여바나 되네 직 동거 넘겨던데네 하지 동거 넘겨도 미라와 뛰는지 안직도 동거 넘겨도 파쇼 통용되네 셈네 어디 직 가라나 여와 직지 안지 계시 셰바네 계시 정보시도 파쇼라 나와 조고다 안직 셈기 토네 대신에 뉴베 자와다 강가 구마다 자와기는 지금 야 선배 삼로 주여바이나 안디와 잘라지는 계고 고가 빼고 여바이네 대신 구마고 키마다 되게 시켜베나 어디 디와지 잘라 하셔도 수레샤세 봐 지게 제주된데 지구로 봐 딩아도 셈이 토네 용구여바디 간 두삼탄에 세우로 제가 하고 도야지
To bring about transformation, one needs to gather knowledge and then reflect on that knowledge. In other words, meditate based on reasons. Because it's based on reasons that we see that a particular view, a particular point, it makes sense. And we'll want to act in accordance with it. So to generate the kind of sincere determination I mentioned in the previous segment, this is not going to come about from a mere wish. One has to acquire or accumulate the required causes. It comes about, like everything else, dependent on the required causes. So think about the faults that either from you've experienced from your own arisal of harmful thoughts or what you've observed in the world. That when someone is agitated or even aggressive, that even if they're trying to hold it in, let alone when they express it, harm comes to others. that person is suffering then and there because of the arisal of anger or aggression. And to whatever extent they express it, harm comes to others. Even if it's just a mere facial expression. We know what we feel like when we are on the receiving end of someone's angry face. Or when someone talks to us, or we talk to others, just with a tone of aggression, a tone that shows our mental state. So recognizing the harm that does to oneself as well as others gives us the encouragement to have the determination to not come under the influence of harmful minds such as aggression. And similarly, we can think of someone who's overcome by attachment. They will take an opportunity that comes their way to take something they desire, something that's not theirs. When they have the opportunity to steal it, they will do so. And will do so not only without any shame, but they'll do so with joy. How fortunate I am to have this opportunity. Another person, though, who has accumulated different imprints, different causes, when presented with that same opportunity, will see something of value that is vulnerable to being taken, and they'll recognize that, and they'll put it somewhere safe. Same opportunity, same situation, but a very different response. And that different response comes about independent on the different causes that have been accumulated. For one person, desire or attachment readily arose. The other, the wish to be of benefit to others. The wish for no harm to come to others arose. So to become the person we long to be comes about in dependence on creating the required causes. And as those causes are created and our motivation becomes ever more sincere, we will progress towards becoming the person that we long to be and that we have the potential to be.
Lamigi ma so tap du tap yo lami kar sungo ora sena nga zolya ta dangbo lunga yisumi nyeje de me tsurum sungo gori saje ben nga ji mige wa ju pa pang ge wa ju de ju go gori sungo re ta ge wa ju duya da mige wa ju pang se di nga zo lunga yisumi nyeje de be tsurum sungo ina dene mige wa ju de pa ga go re ge wa ju de ju go re sena lunga yisumi nyeje de be tsurum se de karla go sena 당에 류가 예수미고네 셴데 네베 자와서야 자오인 지금에 선배 삼로디 디삼로 땅고고라서 디삼로 따바이나 야네 야도 디삼로 기디 나가서 무드네 셈나리 여바체바이나 데네 류가 디토네 삼로 여비토네 여바이나나 류가 예수미고네 셴데 네베게 제 류가기 나기고네 셴데 네베 자왈리고 말에 류유고네 셴데 네베 자왈리고 말에 이유고네 셴데 네베 자왈리고 말 진짜 류가 예수미고네 셴데 네베 자와인 지금이야 선배 삼로디 추림세어디스 삼로디 저기 안에 디삼 땅고래제래 디삼 땅바이나 다 저기 개와 즉 투몽 어렵다 돼서 초 투몽 어렵게 그냥 거 연구를 해야지 무슨 거래.
To give rise to supreme and ordinary spiritual attainments comes about independence on us making sincere request to our Lama to teach us the profound Dharma. And not only to teach it, but for us then to apply it, to cultivate it within us. But the foundation for all of this, for any spiritual attainment, the foundation is ethics, an ethical outlook. Whatever we are taught for us to actually generate it within ourselves depends on our mind being restrained. So what is the meaning then of ethics? In brief, it means restraining the mind from coming under the influence of the afflictions. If the mind is restrained, the mind is ethical, it will not come under the influence of the afflictions, and therefore neither will our physical behavior or our verbal behavior. The foundation of all spiritual attainments comes from subduing our mind. And subduing our mind means restraining our mind from coming under the influence of the afflictions. This is our foundation. We need to gather these teachings and integrate it within us, generate the determination not to bring harm to others. And what that means is at a beginner level, not to physically harm others or speak in a way that's harmful. But what it really means is ensuring that our mind is not harmful, is not wishing for any harm to come to others. There is no even mental expression of harm. To bring that about brings about tremendous training, both in and out of meditation. And that being successful comes about in dependence on the determination that at all times, whether in meditation or not, when we're with others or alone, to guard our mind, to be mindful of our mental process. And as soon as we notice an affliction arising, or as soon as we notice that we are in a situation where an affliction such as anger or attachment or pride may arise, to recognize that that affliction presents grave danger to our ethics and our ability not to bring harm to others. So the foundation of ethics is indispensable for all the attainments that we long for. The indispensable foundation for all the attainments we long for.
시류 갑리야 아니 개와 치마이나레 체텔레이나 시류가라 강한 말에 디기 지야 보여야기 담가지대로 세야지 손바나신 담가지디 디레 류가 예수님 예주되면 수름 숨어야 되래 류가 예수님 요관에 샤라 너버 지금에 선배 삼로 따야 되래 디까지 삼로요지 마와 따데 균이와도 삼로디까지 슉처 조이네 데디 저기 디 체텔이네 디기 줍두야다 개와치마이나 땡야 원련투야 디기 용하데 차고래 규디레데 직디레 삼당과 직디레 대지 다디 디날 직레세 다디 망고르 디디 직디레세
We've all gathered here together to hear spiritual instructions to prepare us for the time of death. Spiritual instructions that will bring about happiness in this as well as our future lives. And amongst the spiritual instructions that Gendün Gyatso composed, this is the first, that of ethical restraint of our body, speech, and in particular, our mind.
나가 저기 류가 유숨 요건에 샬라 너버 지금에 삼비게 삼로 지어봐나 다 류가 요건에 안에 류가 유숨 샬라 너비 삼로디 지금에 삼바인자 류 요건에 샬라 너바다 나고 너버 줘야지 뇽뇽으로 차고와 다디 독초 갈리게서는 다 지금 류당하게 자와 지기로 와 제도다들라 류가 자와 가르쳐베나 정보다 안에 샬라 팬비게 자와로지 용투로 와지 개와 차고로 와 디네자 안에 세딜이네 미디 미션타게 갈라고스네 어디 미디 야고요레스 미 정보요레스 그 준식 말레스 그 꾸마고 말레스야데 아니 미디 스페 야고요레스 비게 차상기 아니 지게 로데야데 이시지야기 미차고래 로데 이시지야다 차상기 아니 지 그 야고요레스 이문제게 미디 차고래 데네게 차웨나 어느 소소이네 데 밀리네 지게 세메 야고 수도고 소소이네 지미 지 야고르세데 야고 차고로 와데네 장가서 고야디 야고르세 차고로 제자 데네자 셴기네 어디미 야고르세데 제도 소소레 네비게 뉴아 차고로 와 제자 네비게 뉴아 차고로 와 데네자 고 체디 삼다에 나가지고 디기디 용고로 와 제자 ngāntu lū yu kone shāla cewa cheba tāng, ngā yu kone shāla jāksa shē kōhora tāng, tēne lū yu kone shāla kāng nē tūtū cheba ina, ane mīdi mī shandā ina, o mīdi dīdō yāgō yō mārē, mī zūn shīgirī, dī kōhora tāng kare sā, dī kūmā kūshā sā tāng, tēne nyēn tōpi tī chīn pā jīk jūyā tāng, tēne zhōng kā nāng lū yā tāng, tīm nyē shē tāng yā jī dīdō, tēne 강아 망고 리기도와 제가 기부메 바데 강아디 딜리기도와 제가 류가 예수 예주도 추름수 와는 대소 안에 미 현대의 견주의 제야당 지금 년도비 주야당 안정하나 줘야 돼 디강아데 차사마 세요로 제가 디메 나고도 디기 차고로 와 제가 내가 디기 근데 투모 디기 도체네 류가 예수 예주도 추름수 와라 때네 디 연구하래서
In brief, the determination that one needs to generate is, I will not harm others. I will not harm others in any way, in any circumstance. And in dependence on the sincerity of this determination, we will ever more easily be able to deal with challenging situations, or situations that we would otherwise find challenging. And as we develop this within us in a way that is sincere, where we're not just restraining ourselves by holding down our hands or closing our mouth, but our mind is restrained, that no matter what we encounter, we stay open and receptive and loving towards others. Our relationships with others, both those who have long known us, or our acquaintances, or even strangers, will be transformed. People will feel safe in our presence. They will readily trust us. They will be unguarded and at ease in our presence, because they will know, either directly or they'll pick up from us, that we mean them no harm. In fact, we only want what's best for them. And moreover, from our side, not only will we feel close and warm to whomever we encounter, but we will have confidence in ourselves because of the skill we are developing in training our own mind. The skill and the transformation that we are seeing in how we deal with difficult situations. This will mean we are at ease in the presence of others as well. On the other hand, though, if one is not an ethical person, one encounters a lot of problems. People will act to us in an untrusting manner. They may well be quite at ease themselves in taking advantage of us, because they know we may well do the same to them. And having a reputation for being unethical, we may well face social rejection, our friends having nothing to do with us, perhaps even our family. We may well even face imprisonment and notoriety in society. But to the extent that we are ethical, we will feel close to others, and others will feel close to us. They will not want to harm us. They will not want to deceive us, because they will be wanting to be in our presence, and in our company. And in this way, our mind will be at peace, and we will bring ease and comfort to others too.
Kuma kuku mare, Tuhinshigo mare, Tio mare, Ina, the some knowledge that Nanzu di Chig Meba, that some knowledge and some of the Lunga is Michel and never Chigme, and some of the Yane and some of the Nubachimbo, Shuksher Dangure, that some of the Yane, Yane, do Shinagidina, Tanjavena, some of the Shuksher to go, Shuksher to go, Nubal Masan chair to go. The name Zada, Yanzugi, Jiggy, Undushin, some Tangwadi, and Yeshimachagore, Setil and the Shepherd. That in it. Manzuki, Gavachimalia, Jiki, Ludin Yakotoyata, Yana, Mida, Hada, then the Ludin Yakotoyaki, they didn't tell ya, Digi Yoyaki, Gugindi, Lunga is near to the Surum Soyadere. This Surum Soyan, Gavachima, Milutoviatal, Milutoyaki, Gudi, Dishago, Regere. Jezadin, the Neza, that Manzuki, the Surum Lunga is near to the Surum Soyade. Jezan Surum Soyana, Surum Yaposona, Digi. Jebu de la Mombana and Anzuki, Yawachima, Milada, Mikoba, Litop 2 Grace, one you go about 2 Grace. Just a one you go about 2 Gudi, Diries, Lumas, New Surim Soyad.
As with all mental development, merely giving rise to a sincere wish will not have a lasting, transformative impact on one if it's left at this mere arisal. So if you are giving rise to a determination now to live in accordance with your values at all times, for that wish to have a truly transformative effect on oneself, one needs to cultivate it again and again, repeatedly over a sustained period. And this is the meaning of the word meditation. Synonyms are habituation or familiarization, where we habituate ourselves to a particular way of thinking. And if we do so, complete transformation will come. And that transformation we will experience in this life, and we will experience the benefits of it in this life. And what's less visible to us, or not visible to us, is the benefits that will come in our future lives. Because it's cultivating the ethical restraint of restraining our physical behavior, our verbal communication, and our mind. This is the primary cause that ensures fortunate rebirths, precious human rebirths in our future lives. So therefore, this training of ethics is not only the foundation for all spiritual development and all supreme and ordinary spiritual attainments, but it is also the foundation for good rebirths, life after life.
아니 진짜 마지막에 당에 지금에 섬에 삼당고에서 개민도 안에 지기요 말아 섬비게 삼로 요시기를 봐. 진짜 당한 주기 아주 마지막에는 삼로 날량이 지금에서 배삼로디 공바이나 삼로도 슈크셔도 되게 균투제 마음반에나 세델이나다 치마리네 안디니 지금에서 배삼로 뉴슈딜리도 거래. 진짜 다들 아주 다들 내가 들려한 데네 삼로 매바이나 다들 내가 들려한 주기 즉 구마구야다 준시야다 안디니기 고하다에게 마제바이네 마음반나 야 되는게 제 마시바 책 말해 아니 직계와 치마 간의 차이를 하고요 말봐 진짜 되네 디 삼당고에디 계치 못 차고래.
Here I want to give you really from my side sincere advice not to make the mistake of thinking, well, I look at myself and I say, there are many harmful things that I don't do. I don't tend to deceive others or take advantage of them. I don't kill or steal. One may well not do these things, but don't make the mistake of thinking, and therefore I don't need to train in seeing the faults of such behavior. That would be a mistake, to skip this, or see it as, oh, for me it's not so important. I'm already well developed in this way. That is a mistake. Because you may well have good imprints of not bringing harm to others. For example, not taking the life of others, not killing. But nevertheless, this is an indispensable meditation for all, and to do so repeatedly because the purpose of strengthening our habituation to the determination, I will not harm others. As we develop this, it means in all circumstances, one will naturally not bring harm to others. There will not be the need to think, I should not do this, because the thought will not even arise that it would be a possibility to do. So to become the kind of person whose ethics pervades one's mind, that in all circumstances, not even the mere thought to take what's not yours, to take advantage of others, to put one's own needs before that of others. To become such a person takes a deep habituation to the determination that I won't harm anyone in any circumstance at any time. Because right now, for most people, they are ethical. Hence they have this human rebirth. And they may well not engage in harmful acts. But what about those times when the opportunity presents themselves and they can do so without anyone knowing? There the temptation may well arise in their mind and they may even act on it. So what we as spiritual practitioners are aiming to develop is a deep, sincere aversion to bring harm to others in any way, of any magnitude. And to bring about this deep aversion to harm to come to others takes repeated training. So therefore I encourage you to apply yourself to this meditation on ethical restraint.
Paten dawa rabeke songyor uma juba se na ngonde gyuni tsurim lesheme se 진짜 뭔데 고발 하다면 뭔데 고발 토야디 다 추름레스 추름레 마도 요 말에서 다 추름디 당한 저기야 배 추름디 배서 나도 사시나시에서 사시디 유나 메나 네 돈도 가르기나 제요 말 지신 제요 말 지상 사시 약고 주여받는 대라되네 돈도 드라마라기 두고래 지신 드라마라기 두고래 진짜 지신이다 돈도 대라되네 마저 미다 돈도다 섬자서 초에 류네 투야디 리두고래 지단 대기 두 강아세디 리두고래 지다데 추름세디 배서 사시나시에서 디 사시나신 가르는 거서는 수림디서 야고 여바는 델라데는 아주 계획 자와디게 가리네 계획 자와디 차상 수림 소말에 때네 델라데네 야야 조거래서 그래. 이제나 당한테 잠바 고마 잠바 야고기야 돼 닝제 야고기야 안에 장슈 셈 줄이기야 동유도 베시라서 딩이진세나 제네게 차상 예디 차상 야야 야게 줘야디 수림 소말에 된 조거래. 제가 수림세야디 빼 맞으러서 맞 나간 쪽이 다 사시나시리 진짜 계획 자와 권위 공도 폐하다 계획 자와 살을 깨야다 깨와디 야권이 공도 폐하라 다 추림디 야고치고 그래. 제가 추림디 야고 그래. 제가 추림디 빼 맞아 깨지 뭐래서 제가디
This emphasis on the importance of ethics is found throughout the Buddha Dharma, from the Buddha himself to all the great masters that have followed. For example, Chandrakirti in his famous text, Entry to the Middle Way, there he praises the ethical restraint, and he likens it to fertile soil. Because just like if soil is fertile, any seed that you plant in it will respond well to the other conditions such as warmth and moisture. So a mind that is ethical, meaning a mind that is restrained from the afflictions, where as the afflictions arise, they are eliminated. Such a mind is the indispensable foundation for the generation of all qualities. Wanting to develop a deep and sincere love for others, compassion for all beings, as well as to develop wisdom that understands reality. These and all realizations can only come about in dependence on a mind that is not overwhelmed by the afflictions. A mind that is overwhelmed by the afflictions remains afflicted. Good qualities cannot arise. But a mind that is restrained, someone who is ethical, they have that indispensable basis to develop all good qualities.
대상 상이 좀는 되기 안zul에 냠는 지와다 망고이나 쪼로 뒤셔도 뒤네 가르송 거스네 진비 냠는 수림 냠네 쇠비 냠네 전주에 냠네 삼대는 셰락 냠네세 냠는 죽송 거래 세상 디 마주 상이 고방 토바야라 디죽디 냠는 지고래 안 탈비 고방 토바이나 디죽 냠는 지고래 다 개와치말 하다 미고방 디기 약을 토야 되래 진비 냠네 수림 냠네 쇠비 냠네 디기 고고 전주 냠네 디기 고고 거래
Buddha Shakyamuni gave a vast array of teachings, and these can be condensed in many different ways, one of which is into the 6 practices of generosity, ethical restraint, patience, joyous perseverance, concentration, and wisdom. These are crucial. These are crucial whatever one's goal is, whether it's to ensure a good rebirth in our next life, or one is determined to achieve liberation from the sufferings of samsara, or even Buddhahood itself. To achieve a good rebirth, one has to practice the first 4 of these, that of generosity, ethics, patience, and joyous perseverance. And to achieve the goals of liberation and enlightenment, those 4 as well as concentration and wisdom are required.
야 디링이 아니 류가 이스뉴권에 샬라 네베 자와서 자와기는 지메아 선배기 삼로시 다샤베나 삼로시 두신 되스타베나 데디니 디기 슈긴 디기 긴 아니 어느 쪽에 님이 공디와 되네식 겐지 체외네 양원고 레도 그래 진짜 당아서 디 삼다디 게침보라 샤워 진짜 나도 류가 이스뉴 예제 자와기는 지메 선배 삼로디 야고 지게디네 삼로디 슈첸부 줘봐이네 개와치마가 밀원디오 고방 기기메 삼을당외네 디 제규디 약고 여사버질라 그 제부디 딜게 yin 말이다. 당아 하다 추름 야고송지 당 하다 미디마기나 지기나 지 셈젠 지 야고지기나 지기 셈베 삼다베네 기 말에 가서는 그 유디 하다 미고방토의 유디 사고요 봐서 다 디기 에는 아주 제부디 남규 중그리 에세도 지금 추름 야고송 봐있나 개와치만 뭔데 고마디고 제부랑 남기 리기레스 먹어서 날려용 거래서 그러다데 대시셔 병으로 남규 중서야 돼.
So therefore, ethical restraint is the foundation for all attainments, whether good rebirth, liberation, enlightenment, as well as the various attainments that come along the path. So this needs to be, as it is the foundation of all attainments, it needs to be the foundation of our practice, it needs to be the foundation of our life. What I encourage you to do is, both at night when you go to bed, as well as in the morning, set the determination, I will not bring harm to others. If you do so at night, it's easy to think of it then first thing in the morning. Wake up in the morning, even before one has got out of bed. If one is training well in this, it will readily arise, even first thing in the morning, the determination, I will not harm others. I do not want to be a person who adds to the pain and the burden that others have to carry. I will do all that I can to ensure I do not bring harm to others. And then, in our meditations and throughout our day, keep reminding ourselves of our our determination to be ethical. And we do so by guarding our mind, by being mindful and ensuring that the afflictions do not dominate. If they are arising, we eradicate them. And we do so because of our determination not to harm. And knowing that it's the afflictions that cause us and others harm, being ethical guards us against that. And by training in this way, through developing such a strong determination, the results of this will come about, they will naturally arise. And if at the time of death, we decide, I don't want a good rebirth in my next life, I want an awful rebirth, that thought will not be able to present the result from arising because of the strength of our causes. So I encourage you, ethics is the foundation of all good qualities. Make it the foundation of your training and of your life.
누시네 다 삼르디 두스당외데 당아도 디링 안저게 롭세 제가 날려다 지 담가셔야 돼 안줄이야 아니 지 대시 계획인 루빅데 담가셔야 돼 안에 가서 우리 계획에 계속에 담가셔야 돼 두스 담가 당보디 가서 직 디레다 내 류가 있으니 저 템비게 추름셔야 돼 그래서 당아도 두 삼다셔 당아도 지 삼다야 돼다 디링기 디기 롭센디기 가서 삼다데 류가 있으니 내 샬라리베 자와식메 셈베 삼나디 가서게 게디나 두 삼다야다 니 대부디 가려운 것을 세대래다는 개와치만 제가 디를 때내 안에 탈바다 탐지기 먹고 와되게 야고용 투보를 된자다 그 마주기 연된 계획이 계획 자와 계획이다 맞을 마소나 디레 제가 류가스 예주되면 주름소야 디레 제가 디시와 나싱아도 동화 영화다 지금 류가 있음 요건에 샬라녀 발리고래 젤랑 류가 있음 요건에 라신니가를 녀바치 두고래 제가 디니기 마송에도 류가 있음 요건에 샬라녀 발리고 말라녀 발리고 말 되네서 디 다디링기 ngazo samdaadi gidi dine samdaadi ta dine ge jobe de lunga nyuba chingme sembe samdaada ningu diwa ina da gabriel sosuge tenyodo oda di jesu yune chigyo mare sembe chingme sembe samdaaya ta gonda ina da azu nyero chida ada diringi chi lunga yismu gane shala nyuba mache bade be chingno ki ma chon di be ya o jungsha sembe ge soso gaho komje gawa komje 아니 예지단 아니 좀 메뉴 무드네 디냐면 제기나 선배 삼다디 계치 못 하고
So here now we've covered the first spiritual instruction from Gendün Gyatso, which is that of ethical restraint. So this is the first spiritual or pith instruction from the second Dalai Lama. And it's right at the beginning because this is the foundation of all attainments. It's an indispensable foundation for good rebirths and for spiritual development. So therefore I encourage you to train in this. And for as long as you continue to train in the Buddha Dharma, as many years as one has, whatever period of time one has left, keep ethics as your foundation. Every session, keep it your foundation. Repeat the need to be ethical as like a mantra. To give rise to this determination, to live an ethical life, to restrain one's mind from coming under the influence of the afflictions, one needs to reflect again and again on the benefits of doing so, the benefits that will come to oneself in this and future lives, the benefits that through our spiritual development will come to others in this and future lives. Make these vividly clear to oneself, because that gives us the determination to take control of our mind. And our mind is what accompanies us in all activities throughout the day. So whatever one is doing, whether it's waking up in the morning, whether it's sitting and doing morning practice, or whether it's going about doing our activities in the day, or doing some meditation at night, whether we are alone or with others, our mind is always present. What we need to be is mindful and present of our mind. And with that, we have the basis to remind ourselves, like a mantra, I need to be ethical. I need to watch for the arisal of the afflictions and eradicate them. I will not bring harm to others, not through my behavior, not through my speech, and certainly not through the motivating mind. And as we develop this habituation, we will find that there's no circumstance, no person, no event that will lead to the arisal of the afflictions and their dominance. We'll become ever more skilled in dealing with the afflictions and being the person we long to be. And in this way, with this foundation, we'll add great value to others, and we will live a meaningful life. So thank you. We'll conclude for this afternoon here and start with the next verse tomorrow. If you have some questions, there are a few minutes, so feel free to ask. Then thank you very much.